Friends, and welcome to episode 63 of the Noclip podcast. Danny here with Jesse.
Yo, believe in your flyness, conquer your shyness, Kanye West.
Wow, listen to that shit. Drop some fat rhymes there, Frank Cowley, on the spot.
Good morning, everyone. It's super great. We're gonna go outside and maybe skate. Collect the secret tape. You will believe. The Noclip podcast, we will achieve.
Bars.
I'm putting in rapper noises on that. We're getting horns.
Oh my God. All right. Jeremy. Sorry, buddy, but you got to keep the ball up here.
I like video games. Nothing. What rhymes with video games? What's a good? Is there any video games rappers who I could steal from?
Mega Ran.
Yeah.
I'll have to Google that. I think I yelled bars so loud when Frank rapped 4 lines seamlessly that I peaked my mic. So sorry, Jesse.
It's like I love the idea of you starting your rap and accidentally finishing the first sentence with marmalade, and I'm being like, fuck.
Gatorade.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Nice. You always running out. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into this podcast. Thank you for setting your internet radio to our frequency. We are here to talk about some video games. I have played hardly any video games because I spent 4 days in Death Valley. I just have deserts on the brain at the moment, apparently. I've played hardly anything, but I did survive, so I'm happy about that. We also put out our Black Mesa documentary, which a lot of people watched. Thank you to the something like 600,000 of you who sat down and said, 2 hours? Sure, I've got 2 hours to burn. Great job to the whole crew for putting that together. It was masterful. Thank you to all of our new patrons. We got an extra 300 patrons. Thank you, patrons. Clap for the patrons.
Golf claps all around.
Half our mics will probably take that out in noise cancelling. Boola bus, as we say in Irish. Boola bus. Round of applause. Thank you all for joining, for chipping in. We really appreciate it. We put out our patron push for 2022, our new plan to go all road tripping and launch Noclip Crew. So we're all busy in the background here working on all that stuff. We've also got a documentary on Among Us coming. And I have had loads of meetings this week since I got back from the Death Valley Desert with some small studios and some rather massive studios about docs in the next couple of weeks and months. So feels pretty good. So we'll just have to enjoy it as much as we can before COVID comes and ruins it all. We'll get out there, do it. We're actually filming this week as well. GDC's on in town, but we're not really going to GDC. Because that doesn't seem maybe like the best idea.
Yeah. Super spreader event. Woohoo.
Yeah, but we're going to go. Megan, shout out to Megan Carnes, who did our talk yesterday. She did a talk on interactive music. So fair play to her. And hopefully she did not get the Rona. Maybe it'll be up on the vault in the GDC vault in a couple of months. Who knows? If you don't know, GDC Vault is their sort of video platform where they put up a bunch of these talks that if you don't want to spend $2,000 on a ticket to GDC or press pass for free, may I suggest making up a fake website and getting a press pass. But you can also go to the GDC Vault, which some of it is you have to pay for, but some of it you don't. Don't have to pay for shit for Noclip though. It's all for free. But enough about all that there housekeeping. Let's start off with Frank, because I know sweet fuck all about this game except the memes, except a 5-letter word which probably has come up on Wordle in the past couple of months: chaos. Frank, please explain to me what the hell Final Fantasy Strangers in Paradise is.
We're here to kill chaos.
The prophecy's very own warriors of light.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, I've been so surprised by this game. It just came out last week. The way I would describe it is it's Neo with a Final Fantasy skin on it. It is a very lean and fun and grindy action RPG that is beautiful and extremely satisfying to play. It is also a giant love letter full of fan service of Final Fantasy. But yeah, it's by Team Ninja, Koei Tecmo, and it plays like Neo, which was a great action RPG, almost Souls-like. This is even simpler, so it's not as hard, not as punishing as Neo.
Okay.
The story it feels like a very basic, dumbed down version of Final Fantasy, in which there are warriors of light, and you must defeat chaos and defeat the bad wizard or whatever. I don't know. I just like destroying things. The actual gameplay is really fun because it feels like you're just doing you're just going from dungeons to dungeons to dungeons, but every stage is a tribute to a different Final Fantasy game.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
And that's something, yeah. So there's stages, like I just did a stage the other day that was a giant, beautiful, like green, lush forest, and that is straight up like the Final Fantasy 13 forest, like the Sunleth Waterscape level. There's a pirate cove that is the Final Fantasy 14 dungeon. I just did the opening level in Final Fantasy 9 is in this game.
Is there a Blitzball arena?
So there is a Final Fantasy 10 stage. I don't think I've gotten to it yet. But it is making me want to play Final Fantasy 10. My context, yeah, we kind of just dove into it, but yeah, Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, I think it was announced last year. There was a trailer, there was a demo, and everyone kind of immediately just like joked on it because it like people are excited for Final Fantasy 16, and this is just a weird B game.
Right.
So yeah, it's a B game, but I kind of ignored it. I was like, yeah, this looks fine. Maybe I'll check it out. It was coming out, and I was like, okay, I think I want to play this. I got it, and yeah, it's surprising. The thing that makes Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise is so satisfying is you are constantly getting progression. It feels like every time you clear like a pack of mobs, you're leveling up. You level up so fast in this game, but as opposed to sticking to one kind of skill tree or class, you can always change your jobs. So it has a job system, which is in like a lot of Final Fantasies. It's in the MMOs. It's in a bunch of them. So you're constantly changing the way you play. If you want to be like a tank, you can be a tank. If you want to be like a fast DPS, like a rogue build. If you want to do magic, if you want to have a sword and shield, you can change classes by just tapping triangle. So you can mess people up with like a giant axe and then tap triangle, and then you can go back and mess them up with a fireball. It's amazing.
Why do you do? You're putting on a different job hat when you do that.
So no, that's like you flick it and then your weapons change, but you're constantly getting different gear. So your cosmetics are always changing, and there is an item in the game that's just a fedora. So half the time I'm playing, my character has a lame fedora on, and it's like amazing.
Lame?
No, I love it. But at the same time, it feels like this is like a Kingdom Hearts game because it really like. Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to lean into the memes of it, but it is kind of endearing. Every mission starts with, "All right, gang, chaos exists. Let's go get him," and then it's like. This is awesome. I don't know. Like, I really like this. I feel like they just took a Final Fantasy game and instead of making it like 80 hours, it's just like the most distilled, like potent drop of it. And it's like, this is great. Like, you don't have to go back to town. You don't have to mess with inventory or it's so streamlined. And like Neo, you're doing mission select. So you beat a mission, you go back to the main hub. You can do the main mission. You can do a side quest. There's co-op in the game, which is amazing. So by default in Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise, you have 2 AI partners, which are great. They're actually competent. It's fairly fun and easy. Just go through these levels and have your AI hack stuff up also. But I've been doing co-op with 2 friends, and it's amazing because we're all in here just running around, just destroying everything and not really caring about the story, but we're having so much fun because it feels really good to play. And yeah, again, I think it's the same developers who did Neo. Neo is actually pretty punishing. You do have to grind. You do get your ass kicked. I bounced off Neo 2 because it was too hard. This is fairly easy and fun to play. I don't know. Like, I think I'll beat the game. I don't imagine it's very long either. But yeah, I'm really surprised by Final Fantasy Strangers of Paradise. So if you are a fan, I would even recommend if you're a fan of stuff like Diablo or even Destiny, if you like that kind of like satisfying, like looting, grinding, killing stuff, the gameplay feels really great. Hack and slash, so it feels like you're playing like Devil May Cry or anything like that. Completely different tone to like Elden Ring. Elden Ring, you have to really take your time approaching any enemy. With Strangers of Paradise, you can just run it and hack and slash. Like if you get destroyed, there's a bunch of like the equivalent of bonfires, a bunch of like in the game. I think they're just called cubes. There's just cubes. And it's like and every time you run up, your character's like, "Look over there, there's a cube. Oh, good, a cube. It looks like we found ourselves a cube." It feels like so much of this game are just like blank keywords that they never rewrote. But it's like, yeah, great. Here's the video game cube where I can rest and get my HP back. So if you die, you're not punished. If you maintain all your XP and everything, you just go right back.
Oh,
you can
wow.
you can get your ass kicked by the same boss like 5 times, but you're constantly getting XP for it.
That's wild.
So it's like, yeah, this is really fun. So it's filled with fan service. There's cactars, there's tonberries. I haven't seen any Moogles yet, but it has all the enemies in Final Fantasy games.
Got your chocobos in there.
My ringtone just went off, which is a Final Fantasy song. So
You're living the life, dude.
no, yeah, it's so weird. Like I really like Final Fantasy games, but you know, it's like every few years, like a big one will come out and I'll get back into it. But it's making me want to replay Final Fantasy X. I want to replay Final Fantasy 12 again. I will say the combat, having AI partners and the job system makes it feel like Final Fantasy 12. So yeah, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, I would say get this game. It's not going to have the emotional like story or weight to it, but I think like in terms of fan service, it's really fun. And yeah, I really like this game. I had no expectations. I think I've already put probably 20 hours into it. So yeah, there's a million games coming out in March, but this one is like blown me away by just how satisfying it is. It's like junk food, but you know, I'm gonna eat the whole bag of chips and have fun.
According to one of my favorite websites in the world, howlongtobeat.com, the main story plus extras, people are saying like average around 24 hours.
Perfect.
So, although the completionist average is 22, so that's maybe we need some more
calibrate
data here to right. Yeah, maybe a little bit. All play style says 21 hours.
There you go. And then the way I'm playing it is I'll pick a job. I'll hit max level, which is like level 30. I'll immediately start grinding the next job. So you're constantly changing the way you're playing, but you're always getting gear, and your gear works across all classes. So it really is just, I don't know, they fine-tuned it, but it's really fun. You know, really, honestly, it's a great game to turn your brain off if you want to like listen to podcasts or chat with friends while playing. It's like the perfect game to de-stress after something intense like Elden Ring. Like it's really like, okay, I don't have to worry or panic while playing. It's really relaxing.
Wow. There you go. Strangers in Paradise. Anyone else interested in giving it a go? I'm not a Final Fantasy head. The most Final Fantasy I've ever played was 14 for research for that doc. But even then, I didn't keep it up afterwards. Any love for it?
I mean, I watched a buddy of mine stream the first couple hours of it, and yeah, like Frank was saying with how you can switch jobs and stuff, that seems so cool. Like it's like style switching from DMC, but like on the fly for any class that you want. Like that's amazing. What a good idea. I remember I played the demo and I was like, this combat sucks. But then I watched my buddy play it a little farther in, and I was like, okay, I see it. And then I was like, oh, Tetsuya Nomura did the character design or whatever. And I'm like, all right, now I have to play this. That explains so much about what's going on in this game. Yeah, I've been excited for it. I think I'm going to check it out once I beat one of the 18 other games I bought last month. So that'll be June for me, maybe.
People were kind of lukewarm on that demo, right?
Yeah.
I think they maybe retooled it since it came out. Like, cause yeah, I think I had a friend download the demo and like everyone just seemed mild on it. So it's like, I'll wait for the real game to come out. So I think I spared myself by any disappointment by just not looking at it.
Man, speaking of games that have come out, the only one I downloaded when I came home because I thought, oh, maybe I'll get away with playing this with my daughter, was Tunic, which feels like it's been coming out forever, and I'm glad to see Jesse has played it at least. What's the vibe on Tunic? This little Zelda fox.
Dude, it's so good. It's so Tunic is like an isometric adventure game about exploring this world full of mystery and secrets that you need to uncover. Like it's all about finding out what this world has going on and moving around and adventuring things. I think a good way of describing it is it's that feeling of playing your older cousin's SNES or like Sega Genesis, and you don't have the manual for any of the games, but you have to figure it out, like how to play it. The game literally drops you in right away. So you land on this island and you have to sort of piece together what's going on and figure out how you're supposed to play the game, literally like the mechanical level, how you're supposed to play the game. It tells you almost nothing. And what it tells you is in this language that you have no idea how to understand. Nothing is written in English. It's written in like
It's like you're playing an import Japanese game or something.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. Like it's a totally different language. And it's a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of Fez, actually. Like that element of learning the language in the game. But so there's this manual that you find as time goes on. Like it's totally a love letter to the 90s kind of classic isometric game thing going on, right? But the manual you find over time teaches you the mechanics of the game, and it is just so much fun to play, so much fun to learn things. I've been having this thought in my mind as time goes on because it's so much about discovery, but also combat, that it feels like I'm playing, and I know I know, I hate this, I know, but I feel like I'm playing Outer Wilds meets Dark Souls or like Zelda, because the information that you learn is so exciting to learn. It's like so funny. I find myself laughing at things that I discover over time. Like a big part of the game is learning how to navigate the world better and finding shortcuts. And the shortcuts that you find are like, you kind of have to use your brain, your spatial awareness a little bit, figure out how to navigate around stuff. So there's like a waterfall, right? And like everyone knows, video game waterfalls, there's got to be something back there, right? So you go behind it and it turns out like it's not just a waterfall with an item in it. It's literally a shortcut back to something that like you were like, how do I even get back there? So the discovery of that stuff is so exciting. So I've like the last time I played, I was stuck at this one part. I didn't know how to go somewhere. And then I found the shortcut back to this earlier area. And I was like, I spent 6 hours getting to where I am right now.
Funny.
And like there was a shortcut right there. And it's hilarious because you end up laughing at it. But yeah, that's the part that's really stuck to me is this like exploration and discovery mechanic that it has, or mechanic. I mean, it's just part of the design of the world. But yeah, I don't know. I'm loving this game. I think the music also is a big part of it. It's Lifeformed and Janice Kwan. Lifeformed did the music for Dust Force and the Broken Age documentary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's very peaceful, very like synthy and electronic, but also like very natureful. It is a very beautiful game, both in terms of like graphically, it's very nice. It has a lot of cool like suncast stuff, and the shadows are done really well.
The particle effects and the all that sort of stuff are super sharp. It's made by Andrew, I think it's Soul Dice. I can never know how to pronounce his surname. Dicey on Twitter, who I'm sure didn't do absolutely everything on this, but as the sort of joke on podcast is, he's been shopping this thing around PAX for years, and it's looked better every single time I've seen it. And I remember like playing it in the past and being like, oh, okay, it's a Zelda like clone, like you've made a Zelda game that's isometric and you know, like a Zelda 2 kind of thing. You know, it feels like it's that whole feel. It's a game based around the feeling of like, you know, putting the bomb in the place and then it opens a cave. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that type of like thing. But like I'm not great to speak to that because I did not play those games growing up. I was playing Commodore games, not into NES.
I played a bit of Tunic. I played like the first hour or so. And the thing that struck me coming off of Elden Ring, which I just finished and which is fantastic, is that a lot of the discussion.
What's it? What ring? What was?
I can't even remember what I was saying. Elderly ring.
Elderly abuse. Okay.
So
weird game.
a lot of the discussion around Elden Ring and, you know, like the design kind of like strengths and foibles of Elden Ring. A lot of people were talking about how the kind of hands-off approach of FromSoft games applied to a larger open world creates this really interesting experience where it just throws you into this, you know, into the deep end, and it kind of like doesn't teach you how to swim. And I think Tunic is a really interesting kind of alternate take on that approach where the fun is that you don't really know the shape of the game. And so like on this podcast, we've talked about this in relation to immersive sims before, that like part of the fun and part of the like the joy of video games is figuring out what you can do and having the game kind of like telegraph the direction to head in, but not telling you how far you can take it. And I think that Elden Ring is really cool because I've seen a bunch of people talking about this, that the open world structure does have sort of like it has structure to it. There are certain things you will find in every area, but because the game never says like, oh, collect all the trinkets and there's 3 trinkets per zone and stuff, it feels more discovery oriented and more organic, because you're kind of like, by the time you start learning how the cadence of the game and of the discovery, you're already like 50 hours in or something. I mean, maybe that's an overstatement, but like you're pretty far in by the time you start getting a sense of it. And so by that point, you've kind of found it on your own. And Tunic does that, but on a scale that's more, you know, like I mean, it reminds me a lot of Death's Door, but I don't want to say that because I think it's so distinct in its own ways. But I think if people like Death's Door, it's definitely worth checking out Tunic.
Yeah, I can see that too. Like even camera graphics, that sort of like minimalist, but you know, doing a lot of good stuff on tech. But like Death's Door, the structure was very apparent, right? It was like, oh, it's these 4 bosses or whatever it was, or 3 bosses, I forget. But it's like, here are the 3 paths you go down. Whereas, yeah, I have only played like an hour of this thing, and it was mostly my daughter who just kept saying, go up the stairs. Anytime she saw stairs, I had to go up the stairs. I'm not sure if it was intentional that I ended up. I think so. I think the game puts you early in an area where you don't even have the proper weapons to be in that area or something. It's like, it's kind of subverting a lot of like video game shit. Like Jesse put it really well, that like you play this game and you don't have access to the manual and you're not really sure if you're playing it right. But like that's kind of the focus of it. How long does it keep up the trick? Because it sounds like you've played the most, Jesse.
It never stops. It like every time you think you've hit the end of that like curiosity and like, you know, you've figured out all the clues. I don't know how far I am, but
How long have you played?
like 7 hours,
Okay,
7-8
all right.
hours. Like I feel like I'm close to the end, but I honestly have no idea. And I think that's something that it's, you know, like Jeremy was saying, the Elden Ring thing of like, this game, you know, the map keeps getting bigger. Not literally, no spoilers. But when you're playing it, it's just like, yeah, you're discovering things, and then you're like, okay, this is the craziest the game gets. And then maybe an hour later, you find another page or another bit of the manual that you unlock over time, and you're like, oh, cool. I can what?
Wow, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. I keep making that Outer Wilds comparison because there is like this degree of not knowing what's
Like
going
revelation
on.
or
Yeah, like something
or-
that was in your face the whole time, and you were like, what does that have to do with anything? And you find out
Right.
what it is, and it blows your mind. It is, oh man, yeah. I'm loving Tunic right now. I'm excited to get back to it. When's this going to be over? When are we done so I can play more?
I do have to add that one of my best friends from Boston has been playing Tunic and texting me about it, and he has almost 30 hours on Steam on it. I don't know if he left it running or he's played that long. I'm not really sure.
Oh,
But the
wow.
last time I talked to him, he was researching runic languages in real life. And so
Oh my God.
I don't know. Maybe he's lost his mind, but maybe that's how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I mean, I haven't spent any time doing that, to be fair. Like, I haven't discovered the language. I haven't sit down and like made a cipher for it or anything. So you could totally still understand like what's going on without doing that. But the fact that you could do that and get so much more information, I think is really cool.
I will not spoil the length of this game, but we are going to this week's podcast is sponsored by howlongtobeat.com. It is not that long.
Okay, then maybe
Okay.
he left it running because
He
I
must have left it running. Yeah.
Okay, because I saw that number and I was like shocked. Maybe he alt tabbed and looked at runic languages for several hours.
That's amazing. Yeah. God. Yeah, I don't know why, but I thought was it Elden Ring? I thought was the last one. I was like, okay, we don't have new games for a little while, but clearly that's not the case. Also, there's a couple of games written down here, but Jesse, I have to ask, Inscryption Kaycee's mod, is that out?
yeah.
It
that
is. It's out. It's not like in beta. It's out.
So what is this? It's like a DLC for Inscryption?
Jesse can explain it, but I played it before it came out, and it just came out officially, but it's been in beta for a while.
Yeah, so to your question of is it DLC, it's not. It's a mod, but it's a mod in quotation marks. I'm really big
Okay,
air quotes around that.
Is this like one of these like I probably shouldn't even ask? You should like
No, I
because
think
Inscryption is so
we can talk about it without spoiling Inscryption.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I extensively sat down and figured out how to talk about this without ruining Inscryption for anyone.
Okay.
Because that was tough to do. The only thing I'll say is it's not a mod, it's just an update, but it's called a mod, which makes sense in the text of the game, and that's it. That's
Okay.
all I'll say. It's an expansion on the roguelike deck building mechanics of Inscryption. Like, the whole thing of playing it is making your deck and adding cards to it and changing the ways that they interact and the synergies that you can create. It's this fun, like, really well textured version of a lot of new indie games which are doing the roguelike deck building thing, or like the Hearthstone arena mode, but taking that and making the focus of it on more discovery of new things that they've added. So the mod is around adding more challenges to it. If you play Inscryption, it's more, and again, I have to be very careful, but if you play Inscryption, it's a game where, your failure gives you something, right? Like you get something out of losing, so that progression feels more natural because you're learning, but you're still getting something out of that learning time that you spend other than just the knowledge. It makes things easier. A lot of
Right.
roguelikes tend to do that now, right? Where you lose and you go back, like Hades. When you die, you go back, you have resources and you can use that. So you get something out of the losses. The flip here with the mod is that instead of getting something for losing, you don't get anything for losing here. Instead of that, you get stuff for winning. So once you reach the final boss and you beat it, you actually get more resources in terms of cards. So there's new cards that are only part of the mod, and there's starter decks that you can unlock, but there's also challenges, and that's the way that the game sort of doles out the progression over time. So when you're playing, you only unlock stuff if you reach a certain challenge level. So like the first one's 5, after that it's 10, 20, and all that. And there's different totems that you have that add things to the game. So like There's one that like you start with 1 damage, or you start with each fight has a totem on it, so it's a little harder. And although the units have certain abilities and stuff, right? So it takes the stuff that's in Inscryption, the fun, the energy of the roguelike nature of it, how everything kind of branches off, and there's different things that you want to go to. And it takes that element of it and it turns it into like Slay the Spire, where you just keep playing it over and over again, and you're looking for different ways to create synergies between the cards. It's so much fun. I thought it was going to be kind of like, I don't know if you could turn this into something I would go back to over and over again, but like Daniel Mullins, and I don't know if there's a team involved, but I'm assuming it's just Daniel Mullins, did a really fantastic job of like taking what Inscryption already had and turning it into this thing that I'm surprised is $0. Like this should cost like $20. Yeah, it's free if you own Inscryption. I don't even think you have to download anything. I think it might just be there
just
now.
An update. Here's a question. If I've not completed Inscryption, I've played like, I don't know, maybe a third of the way through. Is this something that I could start playing now, or should you complete the game first and do it? Or
you could start playing it right now.
No, it is not spoilery.
Exactly. Like there's stuff in it that like would only make sense or be a spoiler to you if you'd beaten the game.
Okay.
Is the thing.
Okay.
So you're fine if you haven't.
But like even mechanically wise, it would make sense to start playing. Is this like on by default?
Actually, I don't think you can. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if you can play it without beating the game.
Oh, do you have to unlock it?
I'm pretty sure the message is you can't unlock access to it until you beat the game.
Okay.
Yeah, it's either that or there's like a key press thing.
So the other thing about it, and this is totally non-spoilery, but as the story of the main game unfolds, there are kind of like optional little side things that feed into there's sort of a Dark Souls style of like feeding you little lore bits, kind of that are like you can totally miss playing the entire game. In fact, I want to go back at some point and play it and get all of them. But the roguelike, the Kaycee's mod feeds you little lore bits as you play it too. So it would make sense actually that you can't unlock it. Because it might not, I don't know, that bit, everything would make sense except for that maybe, if you hadn't beat the game.
Yeah.
All right.
Exactly.
But it's got like a heat mechanic, basically, like Hades, where that's what Jesse was describing. I think that's really interesting, because it's like, the fun of Inscryption is like, it feels like such an insurmountable task the first few runs you do, and as you play the game more and more, you start to like get on top of the horse, and so it's fun to just kind of like have a bunch of tools to keep ratcheting up the difficulty and see how well you can respond to it.
Neat. Inscryption was, if you don't remember, was the game that everyone who played it recommended to you but couldn't tell you why. I will say that as somebody who does not like deck building games or any of that stuff, I don't necessarily warm to them or anything. Yeah, Inscryption's like super, super special, and I am now a good excuse to finally get back and complete it. Also, to all the people who keep emailing us, we have talked to Daniel Mullins. He is 100% down to do something with Noclip. We just have to get up to Vancouver to make it happen. So if we're sort of in the position now of waiting to see if we're going to Seattle or Los Angeles for our first batch of filming. And if we get to Seattle, it's not that much further, but it also depends on COVID and it depends on borders and all that sort of stuff. And hey, if Black Mesa taught us anything, it's that nobody gives a shit. We could do it remote and that would be absolutely fine. We just need to get Jeremy to edit it. And then 600,000 people watched it in a week.
Yeah.
What was the other one that was here? I saw Jeremy finished Elden Ring and then decided he wanted to play some sort of open source Dark Souls game. What did you do?
Yeah, what?
So after finishing it, so I as I've mentioned before, unless this is your first episode of the podcast, I've been tinkering with Unity development a little bit. A series on the Noclip crew channel documenting that process to come. So after finishing Elden Ring and doing all the like optional hard bosses and just completely destroying my my psychology and burning out my neurons, I was curious about like how hard it would be to create, because like Dark Souls it's a weird thing as a developer because it's so animation driven and I'm not a 3D animator. And so I was curious if there were open source projects of people, because if you go on, there's a site called GitHub that people are either super familiar with or have never heard of, and it's basically a site where a bunch of people put like open source coding projects that they're working on. And so what you can do is go pull someone's entire project and then just like use it commercially or for fun or to learn or whatever. And so there's a few GitHub projects that are like open source Dark Souls. So there's one called Light Souls. There's one called Bright Souls.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All the funny permutations of
Shite Souls, like a really bad one from
that's
Ireland.
the worst one. But so I started tinkering with a couple of them just to kind of learn.
Right.
And also because like, you know, I mean, after you play a Souls game for 92 hours, what do you play? What is there left for you in the world?
You gotta wait for the next one. That's why everyone got so hyped.
I was playing Tunic, and I was like, I felt like the scene in Dragon Ball Z where Goku comes back from space and he's been lifting weights in like 100 times gravity, and so I was like doing the bosses with like the stick you start with, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with all of. I have too much fury in me for any video game, and so I was like, maybe I can make my own Souls game someday. So I started tinkering around with them, and I had an idea, which is that there's another
be episode 2. That should be episode 2.
Yeah.
I started recording a little bit of footage yesterday, but there's a site called Mixamo.
Okay.
It's an open source animation library that got bought out by Adobe. So now it's owned by Adobe. So if you don't even need a Creative Cloud subscription, paid subscription, if you just have an Adobe account, you can go on there. And so when you make a 3D model in like Blender or whatever, you can export it as an FBX. And if you have a 3D model that is rigged, which is to say it has a skeleton to animate inside of the model, and you export an FBX of it and upload that to Mixamo, in browser, you can actually see what all these animations look like on your model.
Oh, that's neat.
Which is really cool. So I had like a 3D model of like a cat that is actually in the first episode of Jane Dev that you'll see. And I was just like putting it into, making it do like drop kicks and backflips and all this shit.
I just went on a website there and it said it actually does some amount of automatic rigging as well.
Yeah. I wonder. So I haven't tried one that doesn't have a skeleton in it or a rig. But it seems like, there's like an auto rig system where you just like show it where the wrist and the neck and the chin and the waist and stuff is, and it can like auto rig, I guess. Yeah, that's a good question. I bet it could do it without any rig.
That's cool.
But anyway, I was thinking that like as someone who is largely talentless when it comes to 3D animating, I was like, would it be possible to make a Souls style game? Because and so my brain starts. I feel like the thing I've learned most about indie development is that if you actually want to make stuff and finish it, you just have to be like ruthless at finding shortcuts. And so like even Inscryption, this is a really good point. There's in the credits, if you look, there's like a huge list of all the assets that they use that they didn't make themselves, and it's fascinating because I took screenshots and looked up all of them, and there's like things on the Unity asset store that's just like a thing that does like cables. So you pick X and a Y point, beginning and end, and it draws like a drooping cable between the two, and it kind of like slowly waves and stuff, and then you can find that in various areas of the game. It's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, making my own Dark Souls might be episode 2. We'll see.
Yeah, that would be well, the first episode is Jeremy attempting to make an immersive sim, which is like the funniest setup for a first episode of an indie game of like journalist, cameraman, musician attempting to go into games dev for the first time. So let's make an immersive sim.
Easy.
Yeah.
Tip number 1 is usually like make Tetris, try Minesweeper. You're like, fuck it, I'll make Deus Ex 3. You're welcome, guys.
Yeah,
enjoy.
I'm skipping. I'm throwing sand in the face of all the good advice I've ever received.
It's fun. It's good. Yeah, I'm excited to get it out there. It's like we said on the podcast. It's very. I was actually talking to Mark Brown earlier today about something totally unrelated, but I was saying to him about his series, about the game dev series, that it was really interesting to see him go in that direction.
Believe me when I say that this whole game making challenge, well, it almost ended before it ever really began. Let me tell you what happened.
Yeah, I love that yours is so different. Like it's don't take this the wrong way. It's almost less brain, more harsh.
Yeah.
But also like you do a great job of explaining your process. It's about process rather than implementation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, his is like Mark Brown's like the Game Maker's Toolkit developing series is more like the right way to do this, and mine is like, what if you it's almost like it's the bicameral mind where it's like you go in with the right brain and just like play with things, and I'm like, oh, what if you made it orange, then you roll it down a hill? That'd be fun. And then the left brain is like coming in later and doing voiceover and being like, watch as this idiot slowly fumbles his way through the most technical media performance ever. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun though. I think people will like it. Plus, it's like it gives me a chance to laugh at myself and be self-deprecating.
Oh, it's so like to me, what it actually when I came away watching the first edit of it, which is pretty close, I think, to what it's going to be basically. Was people are gonna watch this and just immediately think, oh, maybe I can make games. Like,
dude, that's what I want people to feel. Yeah, because like I'm not like special. I think the two things that are like my strengths are that I learned a bunch of C# doing 2D Unity dev for like a handful of months over the last couple of years here and there. And also I've been I've done a lot of hours the last few months learning 3D modeling.
Right.
But other than that, like, yeah, there's a line in it where I basically say that, like,
can I say what I think you're going to say? Because the line that stood out to me was like, the most important thing you need is time.
Yeah.
Totally. Was that what I'm not sure if that was what you were about to say, but
totally.
that's what it comes across as.
I was basically going to say, yeah, there's the line either right before or after that, where I say that, like, I think that people psych themselves out and tell them they can't do this because it's like there's like the common perception of this is that like you can't do this unless you like went to school for computer science. And I think that the way that people should look at this is that because that was probably the case 20 years ago. But now because like Unity is so good and like YouTube has tutorials for literally everything you could ever want to learn, that people should look at it like learning an instrument or something, where it's like there are such good resources available to learn to play guitar that you could just buy a guitar for like whatever $50 for a starter guitar and then use YouTube for the rest of it. You don't have to pay for lessons. And I think game dev is like a comparable thing now, where if you are really interested in it and feel like you could make something interesting because you have interesting ideas, you could just like, Unity is free unless you make $100,000 a year off of your game. So, and I think by then you're all right. So.
Man, Jane Dev, episode 1 coming. We still have to figure out what we're going to call these things, but coming not too far, like next 2 or 3 weeks, basically.
Yeah,
3 weeks probably. What else? Poor Jesse's been watching me just lubricating my lips here on the webcams.
It's so good. I love it. You're drier than I think I've ever seen you be. Because you're just cooked after being in the desert. Little Burt's Bees, baby. Not a small indie company anymore, unfortunately. But
I'm gone with the
Burt Gang.
Yeah.
Frank's got
my
his
label's
Burt's
off my
Bees.
Burt's Bees, or I'd get it for you.
Mine's in the other room. Yeah, everyone is holding up their Burt's Bees.
This episode of the podcast sponsored by Burt's Bees and How Long to Play.
How Long to Beat.
How Long to Beat. Whatever it is. I forget the name. And Mixamo, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, my lips are fucked because I spent 4 days out in Death Valley playing 0 video games. Ask me what you want to know about Death Valley. Go.
Are you alive? Did you survive? How I'm curious about the off-roading stuff because I have been to Death Valley a bunch of times and I have kind of dabbled with the off-roading stuff, but I did it in my my RV, and so you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And so I it's like scraped the fuck out of my like black water tank, and like it was a whole nightmare. So I have not been able to venture more than like 5 miles off of the road. So I'm curious about what that was like.
Were you on like washboard, like that type of stuff, or
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It got pretty rough though. I went as far as I could until the point where there's like the apex of the little hill is such that it would snap my RV in half.
Right.
But yeah, I'm curious what it's like because I haven't been more than 5 miles off of the main stretch.
Yeah, I did. So I went on a basically it was like a 4x4 or like overlanding, I guess, expedition with a group of like 8 other people who I had not met prior to this. And I've been meaning to like do this stuff proper for like since I got the Jeep basically. And so it was guided, but it was also like, you had to bring all your own food. You had to bring extra gas. You had to bring extra water, all that sort of stuff. We were going to be away from, I think the longest we were away, there was one stage where we had to do 250 miles before we'd hit a gas station again, because we were going into valleys that you can't access through normal roads in Death Valley. So yeah, like you said, there's like normal ass roads you can go on. They're paved, that are okay. Then there's like sort of like, I don't know, what's the next level? Probably like gravel roads maybe, which are like relatively okay at low speeds. Then you have washboard, which is when the road has been like so fucked from cars driving over it that it's almost made like striations, like channels, like it's car erosion. And if you take those at like low speeds, it's just a nightmare because your car is just bouncing all over the place. But if you hit it's different for every car because of like the wheelbase and everything, but there's a certain speed. Mine was about 55 miles an hour where you are suddenly gliding over it and it doesn't bump anymore. But it also means you're going like almost 60 miles an hour down a, dirt road, which is pretty gnarly. So yeah, it was a lot of like airing down the tires to like 18 psi and making them that way. And then like the craziest shit, that was all fine, well and good. We went on those roads to get to the fucked up places. So we're on roads where there was like, I think in the thing he said like, oh, the highest rock you go over will be like a foot. And I'm like, okay, that's not so bad. That was bullshit. We were like going over, like I was constantly driving over like, you know, miles and miles, like maybe 20 miles of like rocks where you're like you're basically trying to hit them on the wheels so that you don't bottom out on them. So you don't like have a rock go up into your car in the middle and get stuck or break a fucking tank or do something crazy. And then there were a couple of sections we did that were straight up like rock crawling where I had to get my car like down a 3-foot drop.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was insane. And you had to like drive on the side of one rock wall to do it.
Oh, that's so cool, dude. I've always wanted to do this.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was kind of like, there was one time on the first day where we did the first bit of like technical rock crawling, which was us. We basically drove up a valley or up like a wash. So, you know, where in the desert it rains, none of the water goes into the ground. So it just all fucking rushes and flash floods and creates these like basically like water washes that go up hills. And this is what like, you know, the 49ers would have taken when they were trying to cross Death Valley and all that sort of stuff. And then on the other end, it's going down. So we drove up a wash, which was like fairly okay. It was like shale. But on the way down, it was all these drops, like these big drops you had to take with the Jeep. And at one stage, I totally... you have to look at the rocks in front of you and kind of memorize them and then think about them when you're driving over them because you can't see the rocks you're on, obviously, when you're driving over them. And at one stage on the first day, I tipped and my car went up on 3 wheels. And I was like, and I like leaned to one side to stop it and like reached over to my radio and was like, to like one of the ladies who was at the bottom who was doing some spotting. I was like, I think I can't move because my wheel is up and I'm worried if I turn the tire, it's going to tip over. And I like rolled down the window in case the car tipped so I wouldn't get glass in my face. But so it was like, it was kind of like that shit. And on the last day, I actually went up on 2 wheels by accident.
Oh, damn.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And I managed to recover it because by then I had like 4 days of it. So yeah, it was awesome. It was
That's so cool.
It was a wild ass trip. There was one part we did called the Lipcott Mine Road, which is one that apparently people avoid doing, where it was just like on the edge of a like road going down where like it was a precipice. There's like, you know, the road is as wide as the car. If you go off, you'll roll for 1,000 feet. And there was 2 parts on it which were fucked. One was where the road had collapsed a couple of years earlier, so they fixed it by putting a bank on it. So you had to bank up to about 20 degrees with the side where you were facing down was the driver's side where the cliff was.
Oh, dude, that's horrible.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was like, and like you can't do it. There's nothing, you can't back up. You can't like, so you just got to do it. So
yeah, you're like, guys, you know what? I think I changed my mind.
So it's fucked. There was that, and then immediately after on the next turn was a flat part of the road. It was a corner, but because of the way the corner was, there was one section where your rear left of your tire was going to actually go over the edge of the cliff for like maybe 10 feet or 5 feet maybe. So you had to basically just like make sure you had momentum so that you could catch the other side of the cliff and get up, because otherwise you might get like wedged. So it was kind of like, you know, it was like that. And then you'd go down the valley and it would be this beautiful place. We went to this place where we found the house where Manson was hiding out, when they caught him, he was hiding in the bathroom up in this mansion in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And then we found this place called, have you ever heard of the hot springs in Salient Valley?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went there. And have you ever been there before?
No.
So it's like, it's like hippies set up this thing in the 60s where there's hot springs and they planted a bunch of palm trees around it. So it's just like in the middle of this, you know, salt desert flat. There's just all these palm trees, and you go over there and it was just like a bunch of naturalists just naked hanging out in these hot springs together.
That rules, dude. There's so many cool spots like that in Eastern California in the desert. Like there's a near Bishop, I think. There's an old ashram that was set up by this like old kind of like hippie couple, and you can hike to it, and it's obviously not functional anymore, but you can camp there. And so at some point, I went to do it last time I went out to Eastern California, and I asked one of the local folks what the road conditions was, because as mentioned, I don't have a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and,
right.
and she was, I think her exact words were, "Oh, you'll die." because it was like 105 degrees, and I was like, yeah, I was thinking about heading out there, and she was like, no, you'll bottom out, and then if no one comes along, you'll die. And I was like, oh, all right, maybe I'll wait on that one.
Wild.
But yeah, there's a lot of cool spots that like. There was kind of like a post 60 as the wave of the 60s kind of like crested and receded. A bunch of hip people in like the sort of like West Coast hippie movement sought out kind of like tried to build like more quote unquote intentional communities in parts of rural California. And so there's kind of like a lot of little bits and pieces scattered, especially throughout the desert of Eastern California, that are like these little relics of these micro utopian communities like that. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, I'd heard these stories from Jeremy for years, because Jeremy's been, he sort of has been adventuring through California and RVing Northern California and also down the desert. When you brought me to the Mojave, like that was the first time I'd ever been down that way either. And seeing it for some of these things for myself was really cool. And you're right, there's like that post-60s era, but then also in Death Valley, you have a lot of like 19th century shit going on, where you've got mines that were set up in places, because they were mining everything out of those places. They were mining like talc, they're mining like borax, they were mining gold, silver, like there was all manner of shit, because it was just this ancient lake that just had everything in it. Like it's the biggest national park in the country.
Yeah, there's this like it's almost stereotypical to say it, but it holds true very much, that there's this ethos of kind of like escape to the West that's always been interesting about, especially about like rural California, where like, like the kind of like gold rush era and like settlement era, obviously people were going westward because it was like the new frontier. And then, that kind of spirit is alive and well in various forms, whether it's like the kind of like hippie utopian little communities and stuff. There's like a lot of these little micro pockets of places in the middle of nowhere in California where someone was like trying to build their own vision of like a perfect community or like a new way of living. And it's really interesting. It's like, yeah, little glimpses of people's kind of like visions for a different mode of living. It's interesting.
Yeah, half the places we went to were like ghost towns. There were either mines that closed or mine towns that closed, like Chloride City, and we were in the South Panamints, and there was like loads of them up there. One of the coolest things I came across was actually, I remember seeing it on like Atlas Obscura like years ago, and I didn't remember where it was, but it was this bathtub full of marbles. Do you remember this, Jeremy? Have you ever heard of this thing?
I've heard of this. I saw your picture you posted too. It rang a bell.
Yeah, it's this weird, and I'd read that page on Atlas Obscura, and I knew the story. It was basically like somewhere on a map they'd called it Marble Bathtub was the name of this area, and it was kind of misassigned for some reason. It was like accidentally put on maps, and people would go there, and it's like 100 miles from fucking anywhere. You have to like drive 4x4 for like maybe, I don't know, that was probably 7 hours. It was down that Lipcott Valley mine through Salient Valley and all this whole weird part of the valleys where the jets do, because there's like 4 Air Force bases around Death Valley. So a bunch of the jets, it's called Star Wars Canyon. It's basically a canyon where jets go in twos, and they basically do these like trench runs in F-18s and F-22s. It's like crazy, right? And they were saying like, hey, we might see some jets. And we were driving around, and we stopped, and they said, here, come around this corner. We came to this bathtub, and it was basically some guy in his 70s who had like been walking in this area forever and like never had the marble bathtub, and a bit of like, dry desert humor, decided to drag up a bathtub with his friends, and they inserted this bathtub in the ground and filled it full of fucking marbles. And it's in the middle of nowhere.
Shit.
So if you came across this thing, you'd be like, what the fuck is this?
That's hilarious.
So before internet, it would have been even crazier. But yeah, I turned a corner, and it was the marble bathtub, and I was like, I had this really weird, like, I don't think I'm an asshole, crazy jerk. I think I know this story, like, and I didn't know how I knew the story of the marble bathtub. And as I was getting in the bathtub, 2 fucking jets flew over our head. And I was like,
sick.
This is the weirdest thing I've ever done.
The desert is magical, man. Yeah, like when I was in Trona Pinnacles, which is right near there, another really good boondocking site if anyone wants to go camping. It's also near one of those Air Force bases. And so you'd be walking around, and you would just hear this like splitting, like rumbling in the distance. And then a fighter jet would just fly overhead. It's the craziest thing.
And they go so low there.
Oh, yeah.
Because like that's what they're training to do, is like all these like slow paths. It's like, Yeah, you don't hear them until they are on you as well, and then it's just
you
like,
hear them like above your head, and then they're way past you already. It's crazy.
It's so strange. Apparently, when they see that they were, it's hard to tell, right? But like the group leader and all the people were saying like, oh, when they see us, they start doing passes.
Oh, really?
Because they're like, oh, there's some people here. Like, there's never people here, so let's go like do some stuff. But,
Let's go fuck with them.
yeah, exactly. That's like, because why not? Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy. So yeah, it was fun. I gotta do more of that. The car came back. I didn't get too sunburned. My lips are just like drier than a witch's tit.
It is so salty out there. Like it's dry and hot, like normal dry and hot, but it's also just like the air is just salt.
Yeah, and I went in like this is mid-March.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine heading out there and like it wasn't that bad. We had like windstorms. There was one night where I thought my car was going to fall because I have a rooftop tent and it was so windy in this one part. We're up. I don't know where we were, but there were Joshua trees, so I think that has to be at least 2,000 feet up for them to grow. So there was like we had this windstorm come through and the car was rocking. It was like going like it was awful. But like everyone else I was on ground tents apparently had the same problem, so I didn't feel too bad.
I had the same thing in Toronto with my RV. It was incredibly windy, and I was intoxicated, let's just say, and I was utterly convinced. It was like pitch black, and I was just sitting in the RV, like waving back. Like honestly, probably maybe it's exaggerated in my memory a little bit, but it literally felt like it was going like 20 degrees in either direction,
my
like a
gosh.
metronome. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna wake up like in a pile of rubble.
And there's nothing you can do.
Oh yeah, no.
Like I just had to like close my eyes and be like trying, because I was so loud as well. Like I don't think I realized how windy it gets out there, but of course it does. It's like high, it's hot, it's flat, there's mountains. It's just like made for that type of thing. The last thing I'll say, there was this one part that actually did remind me of a video game, and I was talking to one of the people there about it. There's this place called the Racetrack. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Racetrack is basically this weird place where it's like flat. It almost looks like a salt bed, but it's not dusty or salt or granular. It's almost like these tiny little hexagonal sort of columns, kind of like Giant's Causeway, but in Northern Ireland, but they're all together. So it's rock, but it has this weird like sort of like hexagonal grid to it. It's like a real-time strategy game.
It's a tactics RPG.
Totally,
Playing Catan out in the desert. Nice.
But it's called a racetrack because these big boulders that are on it, these rocks that are like, I don't know, maybe 2 foot tall or something, they keep changing position, and they have these weird like striations on the ground behind them, like they've been dragged across the earth. But no one ever sees them do it. Like they didn't know what it was. And there's this big, more desert humor. There's this big like rocky crag in the middle that they call the grandstand, because this is like a racetrack. They're all the rocks are racing, and then that's where the grandstand would be. So a couple of years ago, they found out what it was, which is kind of like spoils the magic trick a little bit. So, I don't know, tune out if you don't want to.
Spoilers.
Spoilers for natural science.
But it was basically that like you had a combination of, it would get really cold up there, you'd have ice would like, freeze a little bit of layer of moisture on top of this thing and on the rocks, and the rate at which the ice would melt on the ground and the rocks was slightly different, and then you had like 70-mile-an-hour winds. So they would slowly drag these rocks across the ground, which is why when you go back like 2 weeks later, the rocks are in different spots, but like it's not fast enough for you to actually see with your eyes or at the wrong time of day or whatever. But I was there and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if we're like driving on salt flats. Is that where they do land speed records and stuff like that? I'm not sure. But I was thinking of Tanaris in World of Warcraft, because they literally have a racetrack in Tanaris, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It's been so long since I played.
Yeah, so I was thinking like, a grandstand and this, because there's a bunch of goblins or whoever is out there doing like, it's not goblins. It's
No, well, technically it's Thousand Needles. Tanaris is where the inn is, and then you ride south through the rocks, and then there's the racetrack in Thousand Needles.
It's in Thousand Needles. Okay.
Yeah, that's the trick. Yeah,
Is it on a salt flat or something
Yeah,
that looks
yeah,
like
yeah.
it? It is?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. So I was like, because I was thinking like, I don't, maybe having racing on salt flats is more of a common thing than that even. But like, Blizzard is very close to Death Valley, generally speaking. So I'm like, I wonder if, Anaheim's just down the road. It's like a 3-hour drive or whatever. But like, I was wondering if there was anything there.
Yeah, when you drive back from the Mojave, actually, it's easy to miss because it's just a sign on the side of the road unless you drive out to it. But I think it's Hyundai has their test track out there.
Oh, cool.
Funny.
It's where they like test all this. There's like a big track out there. Presumably, it's also where they film the commercials where they're like you know, for the like American consumer audience of vehicles where there's like a SUV and it's like mounting over a boulder.
Yeah, blowing through sand and shit.
Yeah, when you drop your kid off for soccer, make sure you get the car that can drive through the desert.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Do you remember that road we saw? We were trying to figure it out. It was like 20 mule.
Oh yeah, 29 Mule.
29
Mule Team Road or whatever it is.
Yeah, so I found out apparently I didn't know, but is it Borax or something you could buy? There was a brand called 20 or 29 Mule Team. Apparently, so the guy who was on the tour with us would have like a little radio and he told the stories. And it was this guy who had like 29 mules they used to run between this silver or gold farm, and then he basically like there was a unionization, you know, the mine union there asked for more money. And when his contract ended up, and he took his 29 mules to a different mine, so it's like a really sad like unionization fucking end story. But that's what apparently it was the brand that they had, so that's why that was the name of that road. Anyway,
interesting. Yeah, no, that's cool. It sounds like you had like a with the radio. It's like a fire watch. Calling it to give you expository dialogue.
Totally, it was just all story, and then every once in a while, watch out, there's a big rock and we're going 60 miles an hour, or there's a car coming in the opposite direction and you can't see because it's just so much dust.
Jesus. Yeah, what do you do on the road that's like the cliffside one that's one lane? What do you do? Is that one way, or what do you do if someone's coming the other way?
We went through, did you ever on Titus Canyon? That's kind of...
No, it rings a bell though.
It's over near Beatty up in the northeast, and that is actually one way because the park services put some gravel there because they actually want road cars to go down it. I wouldn't go down a road car, but like, you know, you don't need a 4x4, but something that's not like super, super low would be able to do it. But the one we were at, that one, the Lipcott Valley Road, there apparently was turnouts lower down. I think it's because you can kind of see most of the road from the top and bottom that you'd be able to see if you were going to hit somebody. But if you did meet somebody, yeah, one of you has to fucking reverse. Like,
you have to battle.
I wouldn't want to reverse any of that. It was like real, yeah. I'm like not great with heights. So it was a real like, I was like at one stage I was thinking, is it like, should I take my seatbelt off so that I can jump out of this Jeep, or do I not want to jump out of the Jeep?
I would be holding the cyanide pill in my right hand. And be like, if I go over the edge, this is going in. There's no way.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, it was good. There's a huge gash out of my front right tire. I need to like, I drove home because it was like, it survived another 2 days of rock crawling. It can survive the 101 for 6 hours. Thanks for indulging me.
No, it sounds like a good time.
That's cool.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
I think that's all the games and stuff we had. Was there any other business before we wrap it up? We're working on some projects here. Was there anything else anyone wanted to talk about, mention, get off their chest? You can do it here. It's an open place.
I didn't prepare any notes on it, but over the weekend, you know, on social media, we'll post like a fun question of the week kind of thing. And I did one. I just tossed off. I was like, hey, I'm curious. What's your most played game on Steam? Show us your hours. And that tweet exploded, and we had hundreds of people.
Oh, really?
Share.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
let me link this, and if we need to like pause it for a second, I would love you guys to like pull up these things. And people are still responding to this tweet.
I have I missed all of this because I was just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, this was here. Let me share this. I'll post this in our little chat room. Yeah, it was amazing to see just everyone's most played games, and it feels like 95% of the time, it's usually multiplayer games. People sink thousands of hours into.
Dennis with the 10K on Dota 2.
I know, I saw that, dude.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
We have to get Dennis back on the podcast the next couple of weeks to talk about his sickness.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like just going through replies, I see someone, you know, Captain Blackhelm has 2,000 hours in Warframe. 300. Nick has 300 hours on Rocket League. Red Letter Day has 2,000 hours on Destiny 2.
Yeah,
and it's fun to see, like, what are the games that are always there, like Terraria, Apex Legends, Final Fantasy, PUBG, like a lot of these big multiplayer games. But I'm always fascinated with those kind of metrics, whether it's like on PlayStation or Xbox or on Steam. But because I also feel like Noclip leans towards PC gamers. But yeah, I was really surprised and impressed. One thing that was genius, I think, here we had this a Prey modder linked their most played, and they had Prey at 451 hours.
Beautiful.
To which Raph replied, said, 451, the magic number that solves everything. So it was funny that other developers were looking in on this thread of, how are people playing? But I love that someone had Prey at 451, which is the magic looking glass number.
Yeah, it was the code to the entrance to Looking Glass, 0451. It's in basically every game now. There's always one somewhere. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it was a fun thread, and I was curious if you all wanted to pull up your own most played games on Steam.
I'm not logged in over on any of these machines. If I was to hazard a guess, it's probably PUBG.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I got 1,000 hours on Dota, just shy of 1,000 hours on Dota, which I'm 5-6 years clean at this point. I went through the program. I went to Dotaholics Anonymous, and drank the little cups of coffee and spilled my heart out
With Jesus.
with Jesus. Yeah,
of course.
it was
That's the
very
only way to get
Jesus-y.
over it.
Yeah.
I can't pull up my League of Legends numbers. I'm sure that's probably 10,000 because I was a disgusting moron in high school that played too much of that. But it's Dota 2 for me as well. Only 279 hours, although that seems wrong to me. Wow. I don't remember playing it for that long.
Still in the tutorial, I see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm nothing compared to Jeremy and Dennis.
I'm not even good. That's the sad thing. It's like
nobody's good at that game. Let's be honest. Nobody is.
1,000 hours. It's like if I'd been smoking for 10 years and then I put a cigarette in my mouth the wrong way. Like it's embarrassing.
Smoking it backwards.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Speaking of Warframe, I saw as well on you put out a tweet over the weekend. Was it Frank? Our Warframe documentary was it 4 years ago? Was that when?
Yeah, 4 years ago. And then I did look. Warframe is still going out. They put a new expansion out like in December. I think it was because of the Steam thread. I saw a lot of people have Warframe on their list still because that game was huge. But yeah, I was posting this. It's like, oh, maybe this might give us ideas of other games to cover. But yeah, there's so many games on there. So yeah, if you're still listening, just feel free to reply to that thread or let us know. I think it's a really fun metric. The one thing I wish I could pull up. Did any of you use Xfire back in the day?
Hell
yeah. Crossfire, baby.
Yeah,
Xfire.
This was pre-Steam, and my Xfire hours had way more because I was still when I was in high school.
Right, of course.
Now my Steam is pathetic. But Xfire, I think I had 1K hours on both World of Warcraft and Counter-Strike Source.
Oh yeah,
and those hours.
Source, you're right.
Yeah, So I think World of Warcraft and Source are my most played computer games.
That makes sense.
Can you still pull up numbers on? I called it Xfire too. I never realized it was called Crossfire. That's
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Blowing my mind. No, I'm sure it
is Xfire.
Is it Xfire? Did I say Xfire? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Really?
So I'm editorializing it for some weird
Xfire.
reason.
I mean, when you said Crossfire, I immediately was like, oh, I've been wrong for a decade and a half.
And then just for the context, in case anyone doesn't know, so yeah, Xfire was before Steam, solved itself, and now Steam is great at talking to your friends in game. Steam, you didn't used to be able to do that. So Xfire was an app that you could have that would allow you to, have the overlay. You could chat with friends. You can send invites through Xfire. I think share Counter-Strike server info, but it also logged your hours. So on like Newgrounds or on my MySpace, I had my Xfire, so people could see how cool I was, and and it would also say what you're currently playing. And then it got bought out or something.
I was on Vent, man. I was a Ventrilo guy.
Yeah.
What was the other one? I feel like there was another one.
TeamSpeak.
Oh yeah, TS.
Yeah.
I was on TeamSpeak board and I was on.
Yeah. And then my friends and I just used Skype when we played. We would have like Saturdays and Sundays. We'd be on a Skype call for like 14 hours, and as we would grind in Burning Crusade.
Let me go back even one more level from that. Me and my friend Connor used to play Star Wars Galaxies, which I had to beg my parents to let me use their credit card because they're like, "What is this? Some sort of scam?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the Sony Corporation is scamming your credit card. They're a little rinky-dink operation." But we would have me and my friend Connor went to the mall and we both bought like headsets that plug into the cordless phone, and we'd play Star Wars Galaxies on the house phone until the battery on the house phone died.
Oh my god!
And then the night was over because like once you hung up, it was like 1 a.m. I can't call his house.
Oh, of
at
course.
1 a.m.
The phone would ring.
The phone would ring. Yeah. So we would just play until the phone died. And
wait, you were talking on your through the fucking phone.
I have an even better story. I was playing Diablo 2 on dial-up internet, and I was probably like 10 or 11 or something. I was really young, and my soccer coach called to tell me we had practice, and his voice sounded exactly like my dad's.
Oh no!
And so he calls, and I was fighting Diablo on like nightmare difficulty, and so I obviously died because he kicked me off. And so I pick up the phone and I'm like, "Hello," and he's like, "Hey, Jeremy," and it sounds just like my dad. And I was like, "Hey, I was, you kicked me offline," and he's like, "Oh, all right." I was like, "Yeah, I was in the middle of fighting Diablo," and he's like,
Oh my
All right,
god!
all right. Well, I just want to let you know we have practice tomorrow.
Holy shit.
It's
Did you ever
I was
engage
mortified.
with it again?
Oh,
Was it-
I think I just was like, okay, and I hung up, and then I was like, okay, I need
Never
to quit.
mention it
Mom, I
again.
need to quit soccer.
yeah, right. Because I ain't quitting Diablo.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's
God.
beautiful. What
That's
a
really
beautiful thing. Yeah, unbelievable. Apparently there's I saw this, or I was on a email thread with some of the Black Mesa folks. I saw there was I think they decided to stick the game on sale.
Yeah.
We obviously
Yeah.
don't do marketing, and we didn't. We're not getting any money from it. But just if people watched Black Mesa and they're interested in it, I think, what is it? Oh, it's 50% off at the moment. Okay, until March 24th. When is it? Oh well, okay. So by the time this is out, you won't. Sorry, it costs twice as much.
I did retweet like the sale alert when it did go on.
Cool.
They were so sweet at sharing our doc and stuff too. So yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, I think Valve actually. I was on the thread because I think we were trying to see if Valve would tweet out the doc at some stage. But it's all over there. The Black Mesa like Steam page did a big 2 updates, I think, about linking people to the doc. So that was really cool. So yeah, I really appreciate it. It's always nice when people help us out a little bit that way. And yeah, 50% off. How about? Yeah. So there you go. I'd be interested actually to see, because we always hear that. We always hear like, oh, I bought the game after I watched the doc, right? And like we don't. It's part of the process, I guess, of getting a lot of people to watch the video, is that eventually some people watch it. But I might actually reach out to them and ask them, like, did you see much of a? Adam was saying they had a bunch of wish lists. So I wonder if, like, it would just be interesting as a litmus test to be like, oh, just out of interest, like, did you sell a bunch of them when this happened? Just, it'd be weird. I kind of feel like, who the fuck doesn't own Black Mesa by now? Because it's like been on Steam longer than basically anything else.
It's funny,
it's like-
sometimes when there's a YouTube video about a game that I want to play or have been putting off playing because I want to watch the YouTube video about it, like if there's like an H-Bomber guy video essay about a game that I haven't played yet, sometimes I'll like, it'll be the push I need because I don't want to spoil it through a YouTube video. So I'll be like, all right, I guess I need to play this to watch the video or something.
That's like me with Red Letter Media and movies. I often
Yeah.
just watch movies just so I can watch the half in the bag episode afterwards. It's wild. I just retweeted that the Playtime one, and somebody who does, it looks like they do Doom wads or something. He's an Ableton composer. There you go. Right up Jeremy's alley. Has 1,800 hours in Gary's mod. I could believe
Oh
that.
my God.
It's trouble in terrorist town, for sure.
That's a podcast. Thanks so much for listening in and checking in on us. I'm just checking in on you.
Can I redeem my hip hop credentials by saying
Sure.
that I came up with a rhyme for video games?
Oh, what is it?
Okay.
The line would be, I like video games. I'm sneaking like a snake straight out of Hideo's brain.
Oh my god.
All right, there you go. You know what? Stop doing this. No more documentaries. We're putting you on 8 Mile Road, okay?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope they're video game savvy. Otherwise, they're like, I don't know what that means.
You're a buster.
Yeah. I would immediately demur and be like, you know what? You guys are right. I am a buster. I'm gonna leave. Just let myself out. Those are my only 2 lines.
For episode 3 of Jane Dev, you should make a Strand game.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
Speaking of video games, I guess.
Sure.
Plug in our docs. Black Mesa, go check it out if you're not one of the 600,000 people who've wasted 2 beautiful hours watching our beautiful documentary. We have, I think we're Among Us coming. It'll be, I guess, April now at this stage. I think people need time to watch Black Mesa before we put out something else. We are filming a doc this Friday on a project we've not talked about at all, which is an interesting one. Kind of one of those games that blew up and then blew down. It's a real, like, I can't wait to talk to the folks about that. It was one of the biggest games last summer. So we're going to talk to some of the folks over there. We are working on a bunch of crew stuff for Noclip Crew. I have had multiple meetings. I have to get off this call because I have a meeting in about 20 minutes with one of the biggest publishers in the world about a project. Hopefully we'll be able to get signed off sooner rather than later. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining the Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Noclip if you can help us out and get us some more of that funding so we can keep bringing all these beautiful documentaries. Had a great meeting today, actually, where a bunch of games that we have had a lot of gameplay for. People have wanted the unedited gameplay. I think we are very close to getting that out, and it's been a couple of years of trying to get it out. So that will be coming too. And yeah, if you'd like to support the podcast, fund our documentaries, and get access to all of the bonus episodes, the official Discord, and so much more, head over to patreon.com/Noclip, at Noclip Video on Twitter. I'm at Danny O'Dwyer. He's at Garasha. He's at Frank Howley. He's at Jeremy B. Jane. Watch all our free documentaries on youtube.com/Noclip Video. Check out the new channel on youtube.com/Noclip Crew Video. Listen to the podcast wherever podcasts are sold, and drop us a review if you would be so kindly. What are we doing today, folks? Jesse, what are you playing?
I'm going to finish Tunic, and then, I don't know. I have no idea what to do with myself anymore. Go back to Elden Ring, maybe?
Frank?
It is New Comic Book Day on Wednesdays, so I'm going down to Now or Never to pick up Gunslinger Spawn in Saga and Maniac of New York. And then, just chilling, playing games. There's new Mario Kart DLC. I know Audrey's a huge Mario Kart fan, so I think we'll play that. And then we're very excited for Kirby on Friday. That game looks beautiful.
Oh, I forgot. God, there's games continue to come out.
So many games. Friday is Kirby and Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yep.
And then I might also pick up WWE 2K22. Because and then I think that's it. I think that's the final game. That's the last of Us.
Wow, that's wild.
Not The Last of Us, the video.
Yeah,
game.
no.
Yeah, shout out to Aaron Trites over at Now or Never Comments in the comics in San Diego.
San Diego.
San Diego, go check them out. They've had a tough couple of years. I bought some stuff remotely because he was eBaying some stuff to keep it open. And if you're in San Diego area, it's a great comic book store run by a good dude from the world of previously from the world of video games as well. So it's some cool video game shit there too. Jeremy, what are you up to?
I was planning on filming the last little bits of the Among Us B-roll, which is we're getting clever with some figurines, doing some real life Among Us, which I was going to do yesterday, and then a tree fell on the power lines, and so I'm doing that today instead because I'm just praying that PG&E doesn't burn my neighborhood to the ground as they have done so many vivacious communities throughout the lovely stretches of California.
Yeah, you're in the hot zone there.
Literally.
I'm gonna go check out some Tunic. I think got some editing to do today. Some more, like I said, meetings, and pick up on some games. Gotta shake all the sand out of my butt crack and then play some video games like a good boy. Thank you so much for everyone for checking in. Hope you have a wonderful week. Got our documentaries, and if you don't, we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.